this. There's much to be desired.
Is it going to be too much work to overhaul the Constitution?
Well, if we believe we can, I believe we can do it. I don't think it will be too much
Or we
work.
can do it in parts. Just start one at a time and then take like a couple of pages, a couple of issues, which that's what we've started already. We've taken a few issues, and the process of constitution amendment is usually a process. You know, it comes as the community, the society gets better. You know, you look at some things and say, this is no longer appropriate, let us change it. Other than you wake up one day and give yourself a whole year and say, look, we're going to stash aside this constitution and then going to make another one. 1 year is going to go in between that period that you've given yourself. What constitution do you live by?
There's still the present constitution, which we're saying is faulty.
All right.
Right? And we're making the moves to have a new constitution. The people gather together, either through referendum or even through appointed or selected people. But what we are saying for the benefit of not going through this rigmarole is, okay, let's hands up. We have elected people at the National Assembly. For the purpose of meeting that one, they can be referred to as our representatives.
Okay, we've got our other guest that we were waiting for. She's here now. We want to say welcome to you, Chigozie Ojaka, a legal practitioner.
Thank you, and good morning.
Okay, let's give a warm welcome to you by asking you, throwing you into this conversation by asking, why do you think it's so difficult for the members of the National Assembly to come together and reach a concession over the Constitution review? Because it seems like it's divided the House and the Senate quite a bit.
Well, thank you very much. I think it's a whole lot of problems put together. You can't really itemize it as one single reason. But I think part of it is because Nigeria is made up of many ethnic groups with many special interests, so to speak. We have different customary laws, you know, guarding different ethnic groups. You also have the Islamic law, which is predominant in the north. So putting all this together, we are individuals with different interests, so to speak, different professionals, from professional background and all that. So when you put everything together, I think everybody is trying to, but honestly speaking, I'm sorry to say this, but I know that many of our National Assembly members, both at the Senate and at the Federal House of Assembly, many of them really are working towards their own selfish interests. That's the way I look at it.
Can I come
they
in
are not there.
Because, yes, we are a very diverse community, nation, and very peculiar too. But we're not the only one experiencing this, or we are not the only one in this same category. Singapore, even the United States of America, which I honestly don't like to point at because then they look like an overachieved example of what we're trying to do. Yeah. So it makes it look impossible. But there are other societies in the world, there are other countries in the world that they're very diverse, and somehow they've been able to put together their constitution. So the excuse of we're too diverse and it doesn't look like we can come together and speak one voice, I do not think that's an excuse for not being able to come up with a decisive constitution, especially because we've spent so much time, and most of the lawmakers have been given so much time to go through the documents given to them to be able to come up with something for the people.
I am saying that is part of the reason. I'm not saying that is the only reason. But that also brings us to the issue of patriotism, And then when you look at it, Nigerians, there have been a lot of clamor for maybe dividing Nigeria, why did Nigeria come together and all that. So all these things are now playing out. But the point is this, when you look at it, I don't think, if for people, a nation of people who are really mature and are ready to take up their lives in their hands, taking a decision is not a problem. Everybody must not agree to a particular issue because you have the issue of two-thirds majority in everything, every issue that you want to address. But the point is this, if you have people who agree to a particular issue and you have others opposing, there's no problem with that. But the point is, if we have two-thirds majority of everybody voting for that particular issue, it's passed. It doesn't matter whether you like it or not. That's the point we're being making here. But the issue is this. Just like the one that really boxed my heart is the one that just happened a few days at the Senate. We have all gone through the grassroots. People have sent in their memorandum or memorandas, everything compiled, and they're now talking about these issues. We want to look at them one by one to really find out which ones are now going to make it into the Constitution. And you have the Senate President taking a vote on one particular issue of Section 29, subsection 4B, which said that any married woman is deemed to be of full age. I just want to use it as an example. People have expressed themselves, Nigerians have expressed themselves, and they have taken that vote. And they were just at the moment, at the point of expunging that from the Constitution. All of a sudden, somebody now raised the issue of that it is against his Islamic belief or whatever. The point I want to raise is this. Nigeria is not a state that has approved Islam as a state religion. Even the Constitution is clear on that. Section 10 said that we cannot adopt any particular religion as a religion. This is where diversity also comes in. Yes, you have freedom of religion. Everybody can worship whatever you want to worship, whether it's God or whatever. But that's not the problem also. And also, I heard that he cited the issue of exclusive legislative list. Part 2, part 1, and then section, 61, Rule 61, which says that, the issue of formation of marriage, everything about marriage is under the exclusive. I don't see how that comes in this matter.
Okay, I may put you on the spot now. Let me ask, do you understand what the Sharia law says? Or it's not one of those areas that you're conversant?
Well, I'm not very, very conversant with the Sharia law. But the point is this. Even if the Sharia law says you can marry a 5-year-old, that's not my problem. Do you understand? Okay. But my problem is you cannot bring such a thing into the constitution of the country. That's the point I'm trying to make. I'm not particular about whatever the provision of the Sharia law is. If the Sharia law approves or allows them to marry underage children, that's their own cup of tea. But my problem is, because we don't have any state religion, this issue should not come up in the Constitution. And expunging it from the Constitution is the best thing to do. And I have a problem with the procedure. You have already voted. People have already expressed themselves. And you have to toss majority, which is what you need and require for you to expunge that section. Delete it from the Constitution. Yes. And then somebody now raised, is that not an afterthought? Because this issue would have gone into the process when we were talking about constitutional amendment, is it not? So why would that issue now come now? And then all the sections that were cited as an excuse or reason for allowing the Senate to look at it again. If the Senate has to pass, a vote over and over again, do you think they'll be able to achieve anything?
Well, that's going to be difficult. But let me ask a question. Let me ask Tokunbo a question here. Now, from what Chigoziri is saying, let's assume that the Sharia law can run parallel to the Constitution of Nigeria. Is it possible to have in the Sharia law that you're free to marry whoever you want at whatever age, and the Constitution sets as an adult a certain age, and Constitution says you cannot do 1, 2, 3, 4 with anybody below this age? Can we still have that parallel running off? So does it then mean that whatever happens in Sharia law will then be illegal in the face of the Constitution?
If it runs contrary to the provisions of our Constitution. Our Constitution is supreme.
So can we possibly run Sharia law in Nigeria and still have a Constitution that says certain things?
You can, but it depends on the content of the Sharia law. If there's something in the Sharia law that runs contrary to what we have in our Constitution, then the Constitution holds sway.
Okay, may I ask you the same?
But if they're pari passu, or it is silent on the issue, you can have your way.
Okay, may I ask you the same question I asked Chigoziri? Would you say you're very conversant with the Sharia law? You're not. So it means we do need to get somebody that understands Sharia law and is able to tell us those things.
Whether we're conversant with Sharia law or not, the fact remains that Nigeria